Why'd you laugh, man?
I don't know. I
That's good.
couldn't hold it anymore. I was just like, this is great.
I mean, I could do that for 4 hours, man. Hi. Welcome, everybody.
Ta-da! I win. I laughed first.
I saw you blink. That's all right. You can blink. You're allowed to blink. Ryan? Joe? Are you broken? Did you guys break? Is this what you guys do when you're not on stream? You just do that the whole time?
We do. Yes. Some of our greatest conversations are silent ones.
Oh, well played. That's actually probably true. So anyhow, welcome to Don't Freak Out, Don't Fret, Don't Fall Over the Floor, Don't Flip, don't
some F word Friday.
Yeah, some kind of F, a word that starts with an F but doesn't have to be the F word.
Well, every word that starts with F is an F word.
That's true. Oh, you just said an F word. You just wait. Letter F doesn't start with F. It starts with E. Right? If you try to spell a letter, do you just put the letter down, or do you have to write out like EF for F? What's the correct grammatical?
Well, because usually when you just write F, it stands for false.
And if you write NA, it gets really confusing because it usually means not available or not applicable, but sometimes it means North America. And so when you join a game and you're like, hey, I want to play the not available server. That's what I always do. I always play the not available server. I play the servers that are not available rather than the North American. Does it give you a spelling error when you write EF, or is it actually allowed? It gives me a spelling error when I write EF. So it is.
There's no such word as EF.
So the appropriate spelling of the letter F is just F. Interesting.
Hi, Haley.
Hey.
Haley with no sound. Does that mean you can't hear what I'm saying right now?
But I want to be in the chat for a short while. Aw, bummer. Hi, Haley. I love you. I also love you.
Well,
thanks. I'm pretty good at swooning people with my really deep forms of writing.
Nice. I have no idea what you're talking about, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at this. Would you just look at it?
Yeah.
Because I see that Luxoka
already has a question.
Is here. And not only do they have a question, but there's a previous question. I don't know if it got handled or not.
That is, I believe it did.
Okay.
Yes, by Kyle and I.
Okay, gotcha.
But there are previous questions we haven't answered yet here.
One from Haley, but Haley can't hear us.
Yeah.
One from Maria. Princess. Princess is here.
Maria, Princess, Haley. We did Breeze, right?
Slightly Above Average Joe has a couple.
Yes. Slightly Above Average Joe, and actually today's a Friday, so this is the day that he would be actually capable of making it, but I don't.
Yeah, he's here.
He's here? All right. Hey, Joe. I love you, man.
Hey, Joe.
You rock. Cool. So which one comes first in this series?
I don't know. We're just going to have to flip a coin.
I don't have a coin.
I don't
either. There are more options than 2. Let's see here.
It looks like well, Slightly Above Average Joe has like 3.
Whoa.
Starting with confronting people when they do something wrong.
Interesting. That's actually a pretty good one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. And so I don't know.
I would like. Why don't we start with that one?
You want to start with that one?
Yeah, why not?
Fantastic. We shall start with that, and then
since Joe has a couple, we can go kind of back and forth between them.
Yes.
So Joe says this: confronting people when they do something wrong. Hey guys, question for you: how do you confront someone who you know is lying to you? For instance, this person has claimed a piece of art is their own. How do I confront them without them feeling like they are being attacked? And how do I find the courage to confront them? So, just out of curiosity, Joe, have you already confronted them now that it's been a couple of days since you posted this? Or are you still holding back? Just kind of curious. If you did, how did things go and what kind of actions did you take? But, anyways,
there's already it looks like there's quite a conversation between Princess Yellow and Joe on this one already.
There is for sure.
Yeah. So there's already been, so you can go and read that. Anyone who would like to can go and read it here.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with something similar, you can see what others have had to say about it besides us, because we're not the end all be all about this sort of stuff. But
that's right. That's right.
We can do our part to try to give some thoughts, add some ideas to the subject. But yeah, so Joe, CDVNL, what do you do in these scenarios?
You know, it can be pretty tough because sometimes, I mean, if you're dealing with someone who's a pathological liar, what has happened is they have convinced themselves that their lie is a true statement. So deep down, what they have done in order to be that good at lying, they've had to convince themselves that the lie is actually true. So one thing, there's a couple things you can do, because yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of times confronting somebody in that situation, you could catch them totally like red-handed, show them proof that they're wrong, and totally confront them that way. And what generally tends to happen is they either get way defensive or they just stop talking and, or they completely shut down. Most of the time they get way defensive. And, I've had to deal with that and on numerous occasions with lots of different people I know. And I think one of the best ways to handle it so far that I've discovered is to give the person the benefit of the doubt that they might just be mistaken. Even though they're probably not, they're probably lying and they probably know they're lying. But if you can approach it as if it was simply an error and say something to the effect of, man, I know it seems like that, but it's really strange because in this case for art, I'm not exactly, I guess it'd be tough to navigate this one, because if you came out and said, boy, it sure seems like I've seen that art before. Did you make a rendition of something else that had been done before? Or perhaps, I don't know. Sometimes it's best to just let it go, depending on the person you're dealing with. It's not always our job to point out the faults of another person, if that makes sense. I was just studying this. I just heard a commentator talk about this today, as a matter of fact, where, as a Christian, one of our jobs as Christians is in the scriptures, it says to admonish the sinner, which means to, point out when someone who you love is doing something that is sinful. Right. So, but there are some qualifications to that. One, you have to be the right person to do that. Like, you have to have the right relationship with that person, that they're not going to just shut down. So it has to be someone that's going to listen to you. Second, you have to, they have to be in a position mentally to accept it. not just your relationship has to be right, but their disposition has to be in such a way that they would listen to you. Mm-hmm. And then it also has to be something that is, a big deal, like something that's going to be very hurtful and stuff like that. If it's just something minor, a lot of times it might just be best to let it go and just continue to love them, and let them kind of work through it on their own, But if it's a serious matter and you have the right relationship with them that, they will listen to you and they're of the right disposition to listen to you, then you can probably approach it, pull them aside and say, hey, it seems to me like this is the case. Is there something that, like you can kind of get to the root of the problem? Like, is there something going on with you that, you might feel like you need to claim this as your own? Like, did you get hurt feelings by something, or, because most of the time it's a pride issue. For instance, I remember dealing with this with a fellow martial arts student where they were just the instructor was like, okay, how many push-ups can you guys do in this 30 seconds? Ready, set, go. And so we all did push-ups as fast as we could, right? And I'm sitting next to this person. I'm doing push-ups next to this person, and I did however many I did, and I know I was going faster than this person next to me, but they had said they did a lot more than I had done, right? So first of all, it's not really that big of a deal. But to me, honesty is a big deal. And this is a person that I have a very close relationship with. And so I was just like, so were you just too focused that you weren't able to count right? Because I was counting and it seemed to me like, your counting might have been off. And it turns out it's most of the time it's a pride issue. It's just like, I want to look like I'm better than I actually am, and then you can kind of get to the insecurity a little bit. But yeah, it's really interesting. In a case like this, Joe, I guess you probably have to gauge, first of all, how important is it to confront them on it? Is in the world of music, there's copyright laws and stuff, and everything's digitally put together, and there's timestamps on everything now. So it's pretty easy to see who wrote something first, But the question is, how important is it that this be pointed out, first of all? Then second of all, depending on what type of a relationship you have with them, they might just clam up anyway, no matter what way you approach it. And they might just pridefully shove it back in your face or become indignant or feel attacked and offended or whatever, no matter what you say, because of the type of a relationship you have with them. That's a possibility. So sometimes, a lot of times, it's just not even worth stepping on. Sometimes we just got to love people and pray for them and just, let them work it out themselves. And then just love them and give them the security through our loving them to let down their pride a little bit and just be themselves and be okay with, letting another person create that art, I guess. So I don't know if that made any sense to anybody. I hope it did. But I'm going to hand it off to Ryan and see what he's got to say, because I feel like I'm stumbling over my words here. So, Ryan,
thanks. You did great. You covered a lot of stuff. You covered something that I wanted to cover too, which was, it's not necessarily our job to always point out people's wrongs. And doing so can be unhealthy. To not only unhealthy for them, but more so unhealthy for you as a person. Oh, okay. He had to step out. I was like, he hasn't messaged in a while. I hope he's here. He said he'll give it a listen once sometime later. So cool. Sounds good, Joseph. Um, but anyhow, yeah. Really, you do have to be in the right relationship if you want to be upfront with the whole issue. But one thing, it's my personality to be really, what do you say? I don't want to step on anybody's feet. I don't want to offend anybody. And so I try my best to be tactful um, and have a lot of prudence and so on. But one thing that you can do, one thing that I often do is when I see something like this, I always assume, like, even if I know that they're lying, I treat them as if I assume they're not lying to me and that I'm giving them that respect. Because the reason I do that is because not just because I don't want to call them out on it, especially if they're in public, but the main reason I do that is because if I continue to show them respect, they're going to show me respect. If I point out their problems, or whatever it is, whatever they're doing that's wrong, whether it's lying or something else, if I point that out, their respect for me will likely diminish, um, unless I know my relationship with them can handle something along that line. Um, so what I do is I often say, like let's say that they said they painted this picture and I'd already seen the picture before and I know it wasn't them. I'd just be like, wow, that's amazing. I really like how you did this and how you did this in this picture. And I would really present it as if they did it. But then I would go on to say something like, um, I would give a third party example of someone who lied about something, not pointing to them, but giving third party examples really helps people because it shows them their fault and it makes them not necessarily want to do it anymore. So, like for example, if someone showed me a picture and I knew that they cheated on it, um, if I had the right relationship, obviously I'd just be like, dude, come on, I know you didn't draw the picture. Like, this is great though. I love this artist's work and they're great example. I think if I could copy anybody's picture, I wish I drew this, you know, I would be like that. But if it's not the right kind of person to do that with, if I know that they're really sensitive, if I know that if I if I pointed out that they were lying, they would get really hurt and it would do more damage than good. If they're in that kind of scenario, then what I would do is, yeah, I would say, wow, yeah, this art is really good. I really like, all these things about it. And then say, and try to find a way to smooth my conversation over into another line. And that would be saying, like, I met some people, they're actually really good artists themselves, but they always like copy other people's pictures. And I wish they wouldn't because, they're so good themselves. And people should really just create what they can create, share what they have for the world rather than copying other people all the time. It's okay to copy other people though, but, I just want to see what they can make on their own. And, and so saying something like that in the middle of the conversation will change their direction rather than trying to appeal to people based off of their artwork. It will show them that, hey, whatever you can do would be nice to see because it's you. Um, Things like that. And also pointing out like that you have no if you say like I don't find it respectful for other people who cheat on art, or just grab other people's pictures or whatever. That's so annoying. And not saying it's them, but saying it's somebody else. It lets them know like, hey, like that is a disrespectful thing to do. And I shouldn't be doing this. Like this person doesn't like that. And I don't want to get caught doing that in front of this person who I respect. Because if you act respectful to them, then they're going to respect you and what you say. So, yeah. Would it be less respectful to point out fault or to ignore it? I only asked because there were many times I hoped people would point out mine. So you're saying Yes, I'm saying it's situational. Um, because it really depends upon the person. How are they going to take it? If you know the person well enough to know that they're just going to get really upset, and it's going to do more damage than good, like certain people, you point out their flaws and they take it to heart and they say, I'll work on that. But other people, you point out their flaws and they just feel attacked and then they hate you. Um, so you do have to figure out who you're dealing with. Every person is a human being. Every person is different. Everybody has different ways of receiving and, acknowledging messages. So it really is situational. And I wish it wasn't. You know, it's important to point out flaws so that people have something to build upon. But a lot of times, people already know their flaws, and you don't need to point them out for them. A lot of times, people are, people who lie about the picture know it's not their picture, right? A lot of times they do know it's not their picture. Um, and the only times they do is when they're, like Joe said, a psychological or pathological, whatever, pathological liar, when their brain has convinced themselves that they actually did draw it. But most of the time, people know when they've messed up, when they've done something wrong, or when they're lying about how many push-ups they've done or whatever it is. People know. Um, and that's something they're already dealing with from that moment that they're trying to figure out how to fix. And sometimes they fix it by making the lie go further and further and further. But as they do it, they know they don't like themselves. And so they're already struggling internally. It's not our job to make them struggle more. But what is our job?
Necessarily.
Right. Well, yeah, sometimes struggling is a helpful thing, but it's not our job to make them worse. Right? It's our job to make them better. And some people, if you point out their flaws, it won't make them better. Because they're already dealing with it inside and they know what they need to fix. Sometimes pointing out their flaws can be encouraging to them. And sometimes it can't be. It really is situational. And sometimes you have to test the waters to find out what works for that individual. Some people do so much under the conditions of tough love. They do so much better under the conditions of tough love. When someone's being loving, but really, really straightforward and tough with the person. Like some people, like if I talk to them, I got to say like, hey man, come on. You know right from wrong, dude. You just look, man up. You got this. Some people they're in a relationship and what they need is for their partner to stop babying them. Like sometimes people get into a relationship and then they just become complacent and they don't want to do anything anymore. They don't want to have a job because they feel like, oh, this person loves me. Everything's, great, regardless of, whether I'm helping out around the house or not, and so on. And that happens in relationships a lot of times. And what they need is for someone to pull away the sweet, tender, caring love and give them a bit of tough love and say, look, like you got to do what's right. I love you and I want for you to feel good about yourself. I can see that you don't. I want you to continue growing and being an amazing person, but you need to shape up. Some people thrive under tough love. Some people thrive under a gentle kind of love. Some people thrive under passive. Like you don't even acknowledge them. They'll figure it out on their own. Some people figure it out on their own. You just need to give them the right nuggets.
Yes. And all of us, incidentally, Ryan is saying that some people thrive under tough love. Some people thrive under more of a gentle, approach. And really, I think all of us thrive in those environments, depending on how we feel at any given time, depending on how much has been put into our love tank, how secure we are with ourselves. All of those kind of factor in. And this is a great lesson. Like everything Ryan's describing in this question, I'm so glad you asked this, Joe, because this is such a great lesson in determining how you will tactfully approach a situation. Because really that's what it's all about. It's all about tact. how are you approaching it? And you got to gauge the other person in order to determine how you're going to tactfully approach. But what Ryan said was so spot on, because he's, everything he was saying, you'll notice this underlying theme through everything. And that theme is love. There has to be the love of that other individual in order to even, that's like the first checkpoint in the whole thing. You got to love this person, and they got to know it. They got to know you're approaching this from a standpoint of loving this person. And then from there, then you can gauge, okay, where are they at right now? Is this a tough love situation? Is this a gentle love situation? Is this something where I need to dismiss it and just pour love on to fill their love tank to the point where they can accept admonition? So yes, so it is situational, like you said, but it's situational based on those things, and it really takes being tuned into the other person. So I'm sorry, Ryan, I totally interrupted you.
Oh no, that's great. I'm glad you did. And yeah, it's exactly true. Being tactful is a talent that you acquire. It's a skill that you acquire through trying it out. And sometimes, excuse me, I go into situations like this a lot, and I just try to gauge the person as fast as possible by opening up conversation, regardless of what the conversation is about, and seeing what they're at, and trying to figure out, how can I help this person? How do I talk to them? What kind of words do I need to say to them that help them move forward? Because we're all different. And I can't always figure out people right away. I sometimes I mess up and I make the wrong choices. But then when I make the wrong choices, I can acknowledge those and go back to the person and say, sorry for, what I said. I was out of line. I shouldn't have been so hard on you, or whatever. It really is just a relationship that you're trying to develop. And they're not always easy. I wish we could all be super open, and we're transparent, but we can't be, because we're humans. And yeah.
Well, for instance, I can't tell you how many times, because Ryan and I have a pretty close relationship, where we've worked together on different projects, and we've checked each other's work, and we've done all kinds of stuff together, and we've spent a great deal of time in conversation. So there have been times, many times, in fact, that I can recall right now, I can think of in my head, where Ryan has just asked a simple question about maybe my performance level or what I've been doing, and it immediately makes me uncomfortable.
Sorry.
Immediately. No, but this is not a bad thing, because our relationship is to that point where I know he loves me and he wants me to be better. And so his pointing this out, and part of the way is, like Ryan said of himself, he's extremely tactful, and he's extremely non-confrontational. And so he will just ask these questions of just, and just kind of put it out there. So why isn't that done yet? And immediately, like, I'm just like, oh.
Well, I've got those problems too, though. I'm quite slacking on my work too.
But the point is he knows that that's just going to spur me into at least thinking about why, so then I can answer the question for myself. He's not grilling me and saying, why are you not doing this? And answer me now. He's just trying to get me to think, so I can then make the corrections on my own. He knows I'm capable of doing that. And most people are. They really are capable, But Ryan has spoken in previous episodes about enablers. So that's one thing you got to also be careful of. Like, if you're enabling somebody's bad behavior through acceptance of it, then that's not a loving thing either. So,
You've talked about that many times, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've gotten some pretty tough admonitions on that myself through people. It's like, how if you let this person treat you this way, you're enabling their bad behavior, and that does not help them. Mm-hmm. You actually hurt them by accepting that bad behavior. You still have to confront the bad behavior, but you have to do it in such a way that's loving and tactful, and you have to gauge the other person's position and where they're at and all those different things. And it really takes paying attention to where someone's at. And you can do a lot by asking questions.
Yeah, I was going to say that for sure. One of the best things you can do is assume they can work it out themselves. You just have to ask the questions to start their mind working on that path.
Yes.
Like a lot of times I just ask questions. When I see someone going down the wrong path, a lot of times they're already acknowledging the path. But they're trying to figure out how to work themselves through it or whatever. A lot of times you just have to ask questions, and you don't ask questions so as to grill them, to like really push it on them. Be like, dude, why did you do this? But ask different questions. Ask questions that make them think and try to figure out how to fix what they've done or how to move on. It's hard to say right now, but you can find the questions in the moment if you think. But yeah, a lot of it is just asking questions, and being honestly sincere, like curious as to what they're going to say. And sometimes you do have to speak your mind. Someone will answer, like you'll ask a question and they'll answer it, and sometimes they'll come back and you're like, I feel like they didn't quite get my question. My question didn't lead them the right way. Mm-hmm. So then it's a really patient type of thing. With people who are really insecure and can feel attacked if you point out anything that's wrong about them or whatever about what they're doing. It's not they're not evil or broken. They just did something, right? They just did something they shouldn't have. That doesn't mean that they're, we should like judge them. But we can judge their action. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, oh no, Pri, I hope you get better. That's awful. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're patient and you ask them, the questions and they respond, and it's like, oh, they're not going in the direction I want them to go in, because you already know the answer, but you're still trying to guide them. So mm-hmm. Then when they, if you notice they're not going in the direction you want, you give some information, or you give your own thoughts about the subject, in a non, like, you have to believe what I believe, but you're like, my opinion on this. Or you can say, well, that's interesting. I've always thought, it was this way because, like when I was growing up, I had this thing that happened to me. Leading with your own experiences is something that really helps. Like, I remember this one time when I was like, hey, Mom, look at this picture I drew. And I didn't draw it, and then I felt like crap because she was like, wow, you did such a good job. And I think she believed me, but maybe she didn't. I have no idea. Like talking about your own experiences really helps people relate to you and make them feel like they're not being set out on their own, and that they're not like, yeah. I think that's important too. So it's all about tactfulness and gauging the person. It's not, there's no one easy answer. It's something you work through with the person. And one thing I would have to add here, which I'm sure you already know, never do it in public. Always got to be a one-on-one.
And don't do it by a text or email.
Unless that's the only way. But not email.
Text and email is so, and if you're well versed in emoticons, then that will help.
Yes, it does. It really does.
But I find that through texting, because like if I get a text message, somebody might just be relaying information to me. But what I do is I will take whatever feelings I have. If there's no emoticon or nothing, it's just the words. And then I will basically put my own attitude on it. Mm-hmm. Whatever attitude I have at that moment in time. So somebody might just be telling me information, but because I just got through having a pretty tough discussion with somebody, I will take my charged up, tough attitude guy and put it on that message, and I'll get all offended by it. And they're just like, wait, I was just telling you like this was happening. Like I wasn't trying to do that, you know. But anyway, you guys are great with emoticons, whatever. So, but anyway, hopefully that's helpful. But truly, like Ryan said, it's really about love. Undergird everything with love, and then be tactful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like really, Ryan said again too, tact is a skill that's developed. It's not something you're just born with. You know, it's something that you get better at through
something trial. I had to go through and learn. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, it's not easy, and you're gonna mess it up. So while you're going through it, messing it up, you got to be willing to forgive yourself.
That's true.
Because you know that is one of those things. You're gonna mess it up. You're gonna try your hardest. You're gonna be loving this person and trying to do your best. And you're still going to mess it up. And then they're going to get the wrong idea, and it's going to happen from time to time. So be gracious with yourself as you learn these skills. You know, give yourself a little bit of patience, because, you know, it's not easy. And even when you do everything right, sometimes somebody will still take it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes you gotta just be like, you know, I did the best I could, and I'm sorry. And if you can apologize to them, then that's great. You can say, I am so sorry that I misconveyed that. I did not mean to communicate it that way at all. I'm so sorry. You know, don't ever say something like, I'm sorry you took it the wrong way. Because then you're putting responsibility on them for taking it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. The words, I'm sorry that you fill in the blank. That's always one of the worst ways to go about it. I'm sorry you got upset. I'm sorry that you're terrible. I'm sorry that you're such a moron. I'm sorry that.
Oh, geez, wow. Those have been used. Those are pretty awful.
Because that's what they hear. I'm sorry you're such an idiot. Mm-hmm. But, you know, and so that just makes it worse.
I have one more thing on the subject that I could add. And that is this. This is a personal experience I had. So I don't always get this right, but this is a lesson that I had to learn. Here's what happened. So I was working with Einstein. Some of you know who Einstein is. He was a YouTuber. Mm-hmm. I was working with Einstein and Kat, and Einstein started putting out videos that I didn't necessarily want to be a part of, because they were not, I like when I had originally talked to him, I said, hey, I'll make music for you. Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, like, I want all of my music to actually help people. So any kind of message that would be good, I'll be a part of. But if it's kind of just untasteful, or, you know, then I just don't really want to be a part of it. And so he was like, yeah, that's cool. Because our project has nothing bad in it. It's all good. It's all happy, good vibes and stuff like that. And I was like, cool. So then we did a lot of projects together. But as we were working together, things started going kind of in a direction that I didn't really want to be a part of it. And so I let him know. I was like, all right. So well, kind of. I didn't even have to let him know. He knew already. He was like, whenever I'm writing or drawing or doing a project, I'm always wondering, like, oh no, is Ryan going to be okay with this? And, that sort of thing. So eventually we stopped working together because we wanted to go different ways. And we were tactful. We weren't mean to each other. But it just kind of eventually we split apart. One project, though, in particular, is he watched an anime that was a very, very perverse anime, and he did his reaction to it. Had naked people in it and so on. And And so a lot of YouTubers were doing it at the time. They were watching this anime and giving their reactions to it. And so he did one as well. And I was like, yeah, please don't ever do that again. You know, like that's pretty much way too far. You know, and he admitted, he was like, that was too far from me too. Like I feel I shouldn't have posted that. And I was like, cool. But one thing I learned through the experience was um there came a point where I was forcing my morals upon him, saying, "Hey, look, we can't do this, we can't do that. This is too bad. You know, like this is not going to help people. This will make people worse. This will, drive people like this is the kind of stuff that makes people depressed. Like, you're putting this into their brains, and so I was forcing my morals onto the person. And what I realized later was that that's not okay to do. And the reason I say that is this: it's important to enforce what's right and what's wrong when it comes to the law and, stopping people from killing each other, etc. But when you force someone's morals on them and they don't even share your moral background, you're not making friends with people. You're not even making an impact. You're just singling them out and making them feel like you don't like them. You're just making them hate you. Because as I continued down this road with Einstein, it eventually turned into that. My morals made him feel like I thought he was an evil person. He thought I thought he was an evil person because a lot of the things he was doing didn't agree with my morals. And so that was not healthy. That didn't help him. One thing, what I learned from that is the first thing you do is you try to figure out how to convert the person to have similar morals to you so they understand them. But if you lead with okay, let's say you're a Christian and you're trying to evangelize, you don't lead with this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and we humans should not be doing these things. They're evil. That's not going to convert anybody to your religion. Because some people do those things and they're just going to feel like you hate them, even though you don't. They're just going to feel like, okay, all they ever do is tell me I'm wrong and then I'm an evil person. And they want to shove me in this box, and then
or not necessarily take a stand like I do things like this and I do things like that and I'm just this awesomeness person.
Yeah, I'm better.
You apparently aren't like me.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That's for sure. That's for sure. Being too hard on those type of things is not good for you or them or your relationship with them. It's better to be forgiving, and I wish there was a word for this, but continuously pardoning and patient for everything that, all of their mistakes or all of their ways that you don't necessarily agree with, continuously always just pardoning them, always just forgiving them as the moment occurs. Because gracious. All right. Being gracious, because
that's about as close as I can get to it.
We all have to be that way with each other anyways, pretty much, because no one's perfect. But yeah, if you really want to help somebody, pushing them away is the worst thing you can do. So putting your morals up front as a basis or foundation of a relationship is not going to do you well. Make sure that you have them in mind and the ultimate goal of their growth and loving them as more important than their sins and whatever their problems are.
If you get the right kind of person, when you go up there with your big moral high standing and everything, that person, here's another way that I've been in the wrong, is that people used to act that way, like to be like, oh, like the super moral person. And I have these standards and these morals and all this kind of stuff. And then when I heard that from them, I would make it a personal mission of mine to corrupt them.
Yeah. Nice.
So it can work not in your favor.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. So
Yeah.
you might run into someone like I used to be and just be like, hey, I'm gonna make it a mission of mine to,
tear you down.
get them to slip up,
Mm-hmm.
in their morals, and then I can be like, ha, I told you.
Yep.
Yes,
yep.
I was a big meanie. So anyways, but yeah, that is tremendous, Ryan, because you're absolutely right. You don't ever want to come off standoffish. You don't want to come off where you're going to hurt the relationship, because you can't affect them if the relationship ends.
Right. Exactly.
You can't influence them if the relationship ends. So the most important part of the whole thing is continuing the relationship. It's not, you're not going to fix them all in a moment. So some great evangelists have said this is a lifelong journey. Like the way I approach evangelization, it's not like I'm going to convert this person right now on the spot. It's like, no, the way you win people to your way of thinking, the way you help them see truth as you know it, however you want to define this, is get to know them, love them, have a relationship with them, and then you can exchange ideas.
Right. Exactly.
So,
and you might find out like, hey, whoa, this person had a lot of information. I was coming in trying to help them. And in turn, what actually happened is we had a friendship and they helped me.
Exactly.
What you find is that's the more true reality.
Yes, that's exactly where I was headed. It's like, you're going to find out that they will convert you in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
If you go off trying to convert them to some truth that you see, and then all of a sudden you're going to understand, wow, this person knows a lot more about some things than I had no idea about. And
right.
You will find that you learn just as much, if not more, through the relationship.
That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, cool. Good talk. All right.
That was good. Thank you, Joe, for that.
Multi-subject one. We kind of went off on a tangent, but it kind of all really did have to do the same thing.
Yeah. Now you've got some other ones in here, it looks like, too. Oops. But we might have to come back to them another time.
Yeah.
And, but maybe we could do princesses next, huh?
Yeah.
So we've got a few more.
Yep, we've got Princess and we've got Luxoka here with us too.
Save them for a rainy day. Well, that'll be tomorrow here, apparently. But I don't think we're streaming tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think it might rain, but I don't think the events line up.
Yeah.
Unless we carry this over into tomorrow. Do a 24-hour stream or something.
That would be something.
That would be a terrible idea.
It would be very boring after a few hours because I would just be like, it might be very interesting. What is this Jaluda?
Yeah, what is Jaluda?
I don't know what Jaluda is. Hey, Nightcore Dragneel Jaluda.
Protect
the princess. Protect
the princess.
Protect
the princess. Nice.
Oh, Rack Attack, you're amazing.
I was like, what is that? What is a princess? Oh, a princess. That's awesome.
Oh, man. That's great. Princess, it's your turn.
Princess wants us to do Luxoka.
Joe snores ASMR. Oh, Jaluda means hello there. Hello there.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Nightcore. It's nice to see you.
Nice. Yeah. What language is that, I wonder?
I have no idea.
And
there's already oh my gosh, look at this conversation. Princess posts something. It gets to be this great conversation.
I know Luxoka is in a different time zone. It's 9:33 p.m. for us, but for him it's probably 2 a.m. Something along that line.
Oh my.
So we should probably do Luxoka first. That way if he needs to get off to bed.
Okay.
We'll do that, and then we can do princesses.
Sure. Luxoka, are you still here?
I believe I can fly.
How did I know that was coming?
I believe
I could touch a sky. I believe something.
As long as you get the words wrong, it's not copyright. As long as you sing it really poorly and you get some of the words wrong, you don't get copyright strike. Yeah.
Something ton and man. So everybody who has translators going, they're like, what?
Yeah, oh my God.
What is he saying? I don't know. I don't know either. I believe I can eat blue apple pie. Yes. That's
nice. Blue apple pie makes its scene once again. Maybe Luxoka has already gone.
It's quite possible.
Lux Oka was here earlier, but maybe. Yeah, maybe
Rack Attack is still here. Rack Attack has said he's leaving like 7 times and still here. Rack Attack, you're amazing.
Rack Attack, we love you.
Akil says he's gone.
Spread my forearms. That's right. Fly into the clouds. That's right. Gotta make sure you get the wrong words very incorrect, but kind of along the right lines. Like everyone knows what you're singing, but they can't quite pin you down for it.
That's great. All right. So then, so Luxoka, if you end up, if you're here and you're hearing this, please put something in the chat so we know you're here. But in the meantime, we will move on to princesses.
Yes.
Because we know for sure that Princess is here because she just posted 3 posts ago.
Princess, are you still here since then? Yeah. All right. So princesses is called Being Invisible.
Yes.
This is a bit longer, so I'm going to embark upon the amazing reading powers. I'm going to entrust Joe to this one.
Oh, I get to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will read this, and I thank you, Princess, for posting.
Yes, thank you.
And this comes from Princess. It's called Being Invisible. There are times when it just seems like I've turned invisible. I can't tell if it's because of something I do or don't do, or if it's just not what people generally see. There are days when I'm with a person or a group of people they know, and while I am around, I just don't truly exist in their eyes unless I really try hard to join in. In other times of great fear and suffering, no one seems to see it. And the sillier times where I was locked in a room because they didn't realize I was still there reading a book. And it's painful to wait and not be seen, but it's also hard to know if it's really okay to speak up, because sometimes it still seems that I'm not heard either. It's not a super frequent experience or anything. I'm not always the best at social spaces when I don't have any connection, because usually other people have those connections and I don't want to intrude. But this isn't the only level of invisibility either. As thoughts swirl distorted from memories, all but a shadow exists. Nothing more than a decoration, a piece of art nailed on the wall, or a colorful rug which dutifully sits to tie a room together. Even those who appreciate it go little further than acknowledgement. Have you experienced that? Any advice? That's tremendous. And you have a great way with words, Princess. Thank you. Because you really, the words you chose really got to the feeling of the situation and how it feels to experience that. So, sure. Ryan, you want to start us off on this one?
I can say that it's hard to necessarily relate. Kind of. I can remember feeling that way, but also remember liking that as well. And that is, I think a lot of this comes from the desire to be noticed. See, when you feel invisible, it's not necessarily because you actually are invisible, but because you have a desire that is other than what you are currently in. You see yourself as invisible because you desire other people to see you or to acknowledge you, which is not wrong. We are humans and we like that sort of thing. But I think from my experiences, there's a lot of times when I was going through school and so on that I wanted to be invisible, or times where nobody noticed me and I was totally cool with that. That was great. That's exactly how I wanted it. But there were also times when, I wanted other people to notice me. I wanted my brother's friends to be my friends too. And they were, but not really the same way. I could see that they didn't really respect me like they did my brother or each other. And I always was usually the one left behind when, everybody's walking down a sidewalk and there's no space for you and you're just in the back. I think we've all experienced that before. And then that being the normal. And you kind of want to just be like, well, I want to get up there with the group and I want to be part of that. Like, I want to, they're all saying stuff up there. I can't even really hear them, but they're all laughing and chuckling about it. And it sounds like they're having a good time. And I want to be a part of that, but I can't be because I'm stuck in the sidewalk and there's only spot for 2 or 3 to walk side by each other. And I'm in the back, And so when that sort of situation happens, I've learned to either insert myself if I feel like that's something I should do. But a lot of times my own desires, I let them be. Meaning if I'm doing it just for myself, a lot of times I'll just be like, well, I'm doing that just for myself. So there's no good reason for me to, force myself into here. The only time I feel fit to be like, okay, I need to, like in the scenario, like we're all walking down the sidewalk or something like that. The only time I feel like I need to insert myself, and that is physically put myself in the position, is when I notice someone is maybe also being left out, or I have something that I need to add to the conversation. But I think we all desire that fun kinship, friendship thing of being able to noticing each other and having a good time, etc. But yeah, so I can relate on that kind of on that note. You said, I mean, it sometimes feels better to live as if I am invisible, and there are times when when I needed to be that way, but I can't tell if that's just my imagination coping with my situation. Yeah, I think, like I said before, it's very human to want to be a part of a community and to be a part of a conversation and to give words into it and to receive words into that conversation, to be in a group of friends, to just be in that kind of communion. That's very good and healthy and normal. And we naturally crave it. Some of us crave it more than others because of our personality types and so on. There's a lot of people I know, they don't like being alone. And then I know some other people who just love being alone. And I think that both of those things are acquired tastes. You can learn to like being alone. You can learn to like being in groups. So anyways, from my perspective, I feel like going through similar situations, I had to learn to let go of myself and realize, like, just because other people aren't noticing me doesn't mean I'm any less important, and doesn't mean that I'm invisible to them. They know that I'm there. They just don't have anything to say to me right now, or I don't really have any part in the conversation or anything to add, and that's okay. It's just okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But I had to teach myself that, and I feel like that really helped me a lot. Helping me realize, like, my invisibility or how I feel isn't actually dependent upon what other people see. You know, a lot of people don't see me write my songs, but that doesn't mean the songs didn't get written. A lot of people don't hear me think my thoughts, but it doesn't mean my thoughts weren't thought.
I don't think anybody hears you think your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I beg to differ.
Not any other human beings, anyway.
All right, all right, all right. All right. Whatever, Joe. I'll let you win this one.
Yes, I finally won one.
Oh no. What have I done? I've created a monster. You know, we can feel invisible at times, but the reason I think that we often feel invisible is because we have a desire. And we want that desire to be met. And that desire isn't a bad thing. And so sometimes you just have to uncomfortably, if you want that desire to be fulfilled, just like anything, desires aren't bad. In fact, you forcing yourself into the situation could bring joy to other people. And you don't know it until you do so, you know? So sometimes it's good to chase those desires. They're not necessarily bad. They can be very good. But you might have to be uncomfortable. You might have to put yourself in the situation and it's outside your bubble, doing things that you're not normal with, comfort zone, that sort of stuff. So I think all of us, aren't really acknowledged so much by the people around us, other than the ones that really, really care for us a lot. To everybody else is focused on themselves. Everyone experiences things through their own mind, and so they're not really focusing on you or anybody other than themselves. So I think it's pretty normal to have the experience, as you said, to be like a beautiful rug on the carpet, that sits there, but it only makes the room appear better, and no one really notices the rug, anyways. Mm-hmm. I think that that's okay to be that, because in truth, you are way more than that. But not everybody has eyes to see everything. We only have so much time to acknowledge what's around us, and a lot of times we spend time acknowledging the wrong things. Just because you aren't necessarily seen by other people around you, doesn't mean they were doing the right thing. They probably should have seen you, but they failed to, and that's their own failure. And that's not like they've done anything wrong. It's just that they have a blind spot. We all have blind spots. We all fail to notice many things. I fail to notice things that other people do for me, and then I don't thank them for it. And they will be like, "How come you never thanked me for that?" And I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. I'm so sorry. Thank you." And we all do that. So don't ever consider your worth or judge yourself based on how other people acknowledge or see you. I think you're incredibly valuable, and this is one thing that can teach you to learn to better acknowledge things around you. I think this comes from your perspective, especially because you are so good at that. You are really good at pointing out the beauty that's around you.
Mm-hmm.
I know from experiences, I've had with you. You'll go out into the forest and notice like little tiny details, that'll just be, oh wow, look at this leaf and the pattern on it, it's so beautiful, etc. And you'll get lost in that, and you're acknowledging the beauty that's around you, and you do that for people too. You acknowledge people, and I think that's really awesome. It's a great trait that you have. Not everybody has that though. A lot of people don't notice anything that's going on around them, and they only notice what's in their head. It's actually usually what I experience because of my personality. I live my life inside my head. My head controls how I feel, so I always resolve back to my head and say, okay, how am I supposed to feel about this situation? Or Ryan, don't let what's going on around you affect how you feel, which is always a line I use constantly. I don't want the world around me to affect how I feel, because if I do that, then I'm at their disposal and not my own, but at the same time, it's kind of not necessarily the best thing, because then it doesn't allow me to acknowledge everything that's around me with all of the emotion that you have when you do it. And that's just because we have different personality types. And I think that's awesome because, that brings so much more to the world. Certain people are for certain things, certain people do certain things better, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So uh, yeah. Anyways, I kind of rambled a lot, but I'm gonna give it over to Joe and see what he has to say.
Well, that was really some awesome insight. And one of the things Ryan said in the middle of that,
Exact
what
middle.
you're talking about, yeah, it was pretty much right in the middle.
It's the word
I can
the.
divide, I can divide the stuff that came before this and the stuff that came after this, and there was this thing right in the middle. And he was talking about getting outside of himself. And sometimes that is one of the most important things we can do. The Princess, I absolutely relate to what you're explaining here. I have been in so many situations, even now to this day. I can look through my entire life and point, and I can point to specific times when I've been with groups of people that I've felt exactly that way or even less. In fact, I can point to times within the last year that I've been in situations with a bunch of people and I felt kind of like a stray dog. You know, like you're just kind of there and you're like, and nobody regards that you're there. And they just like, if they acknowledge your presence, it's kind of like with this disgust. Like, oh, like he's here,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's happened, it usually happens, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it kind of tends to happen when I'm, you know, in a group of people where it's like a lot of my wife's friends or colleagues or whatever. Like I show up because she's such good friends. She's got such great people skills with those folks, and just loves and makes friends and all this kind of stuff. And I have a little bit of harder time with that. And so like she kind of takes the spotlight and goes and has all this stuff. And then if I'm there, I'm kind of like the stray dog off in the corner, like, I just kind of feel like that. So anyway, so we're at all these different school events. And since my wife works at the school where my kids go to school, those are like her friends. That's her group of people, right? And so anytime I go to a school event, I'd always just kind of be like, like they all know her, they don't know me. And, like I'm just kind of like the guy left out that, well, he showed up. Oh, well, we don't know how to handle him.
I don't know how to handle him.
Yeah.
Like it's something to be handled. It's great.
Right. So, yeah. So anyway, but here's something that's happened because after a while, I just kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't care. These people are going to think whatever they're going to think. I don't care. I'm going to do my job as a dad in this situation. So I've figured out, okay, when I'm there because my kids are there doing something, like when I'm at a school event, that's what I'm there for. I'm there because I enjoy watching my kids do what they do at the school functions, right? And so I'm just there and I'm watching them and I'm enjoying that time. Like that's my whole focus. And like what Ryan was talking about, I got outside of myself and my own, what was going on here. And I focused on the reason I was there. And I was like, okay, this is why I'm there, because my kids have something going on and I'm there to watch them, support them. And if people around me do whatever, think whatever, I don't care. Does not matter anymore. That's just outside of my realm of caring. So anyway, just recently, after changing my focus like this for this is basically just this school year, pretty much, I was finally able to kind of break that self-conscious streak. And after focusing there for this school year, maybe like the end of last school year, now I've recently had a parent come to me and talk to me. This is a person who's a really good friend of my wife's. And she came up to me and she said, you are a really good dad.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, at first I'm like taken aback. I'm like, how in the heck would you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but she said, no, she goes, and I'm like, that really means a lot that you would say that. She's like, no, like it shows how committed you are to being a good dad. And it really is a blessing, you know, that, you know, that you're there. I can tell that you're a really good dad. And it really, it warmed my heart to hear that. But it was the result of being focused where I was supposed to be focused. So like, that's one of the things about being task oriented. I'm always looking for what's my job in this situation, you know? And if my job is to socialize, that's hard for me. Like, I'm not really that good at socializing. I try. Ryan has said to you guys that I'm really good at striking up conversations and stuff like that.
You are good, dude. You are better than you know. You you are.
Well, thanks. But I don't feel like that a lot of times. That's just mainly just asking questions of people. And I've gotten to know some of the parents there and everything. And it's, it's cool. But, and I've said on previous streams, if you can get good at asking questions about people, don't, instead of trying to think of the most clever thing to say, if you can just ask questions of people, notice things and ask questions about them, and then get other people to talk, you will find that they will take a liking to you just because they're a person that can talk about themselves when they're around you. Because all of us like to talk about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, and like, if you can get somebody talking about themselves, they will love you because they're talking about themselves. It's their favorite subject, And so, but that, I mean, a lot of times that works better one-on-one when we're in those types of situations. If you're one-on-one with someone, that's the most effective, where you can kind of have a one-on-one conversation with people, and that's where that's the most effective. If you're in a group of people, it's a little bit difficult, especially for an introvert like I am, and like it seems that you may be, Princess. And sometimes it's best to just sit back and look around at the people and think about how much you love them. And not like gaga love.
But I really like what Jeff said.
What did Jeff say?
He said, CDVNL is the great edifier, which makes for a comfortable social situation.
Oh, well, edification, that's basically building people up. That's finding things that are good about people, pointing out things that are good in other people.
Yeah. And that makes you you're really good at that. And that's part of what makes you great with socializing.
Well, thank you. But I also have to point out something that I believe somebody in the chat said, something about this is the BSS community, or something about this only happens outside the BSS community, or something like that. But the thing is, why do you think the BSS community exists? Because we're all a bunch of misfits and we need a place to belong. And so we created an online community where people could belong and people could be themselves, and we could encourage one another and we could love one another, and we could do all this without, reservation. And, we would be accepting of people and uplifting of people, and, give people a place to get away from the stresses of these situations like you're talking about here, where you feel invisible, or you feel like the stray dog, you feel like the rug on the floor, or the art on the wall, or whatever you end up feeling like. You can come to the BSS community and you can be yourself and be loved. And we want to express that love as much as we can, and we do these streams because of that too. Because we love you. We love every single one of you, and we want to love even more of you. And so we want to expand and grow into this huge community where everybody's just loving each other for real. Not like love in like, what am I going to get out of this person? More like just love because, we all need to be filled in that area. In a world where everybody's out to get something from you, what if we had a community where people could come and just relax and know that other people had their back, that we would be here and that people would be accepting. And no matter, like, if you were having some kind of problem, people would still accept you through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we want to do this. And Princess, I feel what you're going through. Because like I said, I've been there many times. I've been there more times than I can count. Just the odd man out, feeling like outside the group, nobody understands me, nobody gets it, whatever. But Ryan hit the nail on the head. If you can figure out how to get outside yourself to the point where you're focused on, how can I contribute to this situation that I'm in right now? And in the case of the situations with my kids' school events, the best way I could contribute would be by supporting my kids in that situation. And every situation is going to be a little bit different. What can you do to contribute? And it might just be standing there and being open for when someone talks to you. It might just be standing there, be open and welcoming in case somebody needs like, I don't know how to put it, a warm, fuzzy person to talk to. Yeah, or a hug, or a kind word, or a kind look, a smile. Some of those moments are the greatest. And like when that parent came to me and just said, you really are a good dad. And I could not believe how great that made me feel, because I felt like I was just not even noticed. But the truth is, like Ryan said, you're not going unnoticed. They know you're there. They see you there. They know you're there. You are noticed. Even though you don't feel like you're acknowledged, you are being noticed. And it's making a difference. You being there and just smiling and being open and being loving, you will make a difference through silence, sometimes way more than you could by filling the air with words.
That's true.
So with that, I'm going to shut up and be silent, and then maybe I'll make more of a difference. So Ryan, what do you got?
No, that's true. I can actually think back of many different scenarios, especially within the leadership development business that we are part of. There are many times where people's presence meant more than their conversation, way more, and many, many, many times. A lot of times you'd have a speaker and their wife being there, and the wife never said a thing, but she was there next to her husband, and she didn't need to say anything. Nothing needed to be said, and she didn't need to be social, but she was there, and that made a big difference. It made a big difference on a lot of people. Or sometimes, just being there and being open for a conversation, but not starting one, that made a big difference. Like, it was kind of like in that scenario, in that environment, I got to do a lot of people watching and it was kind of cool. But yeah, there's truth to what Joe was saying in silence, and in not necessarily having to be a part of it, but being a part of it, or not necessarily having to contribute to the words or anything, but being there physically, it does make a big difference. It really does. We had people that were part of our group that really didn't talk much, but they were there. They were always there. And you felt comforted by that. And you're like, wow, that person, he's here every time, even though like I've never heard him say a word, never seen him talk to anybody. Man, like I want to get to know him. But at the same time, I'm too scared. to actually say anything to him. But I do want to get to know him because he seems like a really awesome guy for sticking around this long without ever even saying anything. And yet, like, and no one talks to him. Like, I want to talk to him, but then I don't because I'm shy, you know? I had no thing to say to him. Like, hey, I should have just went up and been like, hey, I noticed you here, and I think that it's awesome that you always come to here and come to these things, you know? What makes you keep on coming? Like, I should have just, I mean, it would have been so easy now in retrospect, you know? But, you know, well, we all are continuing to grow and get better at things. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, people, it's okay for you not to necessarily have um, anything but your presence.
And if you can fill your heart with love and put a genuine smile on your face, the smile that originates from deep down in your gut, where you feel the smile radiate from within you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can be around people with that feeling inside, what you're going to find is that every single person in this world is broken in some way. Every single one of us has been hurt. Every single one of us has fears. Every single one of us has been jilted by another person in some way. And we've all been heartbroken at different times in our lives. And sometimes the people who seem like they have it the most put together are the ones who are hurting the most. And it's just a front that they put up so they won't get hurt any further. And if you can just be there with a love and acceptance and a smile, quietly loving people, you will mend many hearts through that. You will help improve the lives of so many people. That's just true. By being that way around other people. And so sometimes being invisible, I don't think we're ever really invisible. You know, I don't think, because people feel our presence. You ever notice that? Like when someone's around, even if you can't see them, you know they're there.
Yeah.
You know, like we give off energy. Like
there's a physical pressure that you can feel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really, I don't know. It really spoke to my soul, your topic here, Princess. Mm-hmm. Partly because I know how that feels, and I know how discouraging it can be. And I also know that, you know, when you're just there, you can make a difference just by being there. Like Ryan was talking about, some people who are just there, they never say anything, but just their mere presence lifts the room.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Gives other people comfort and joy. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing to add. You talked about not knowing, you know, when to speak up or being, you know, kind of locked into a room because you're reading a book, etc. Don't ever be afraid to speak up. Don't ever be afraid to assert yourself or put yourself out there. I struggled with that a lot. I mean, for me, it was even just like whether I was in class or I was at church or I was at a seminar or wherever I was, and I had to go to the bathroom, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to the bathroom because I don't want to be the guy that gets up and everybody looks at me getting up. Where's he going? You know, in school, I'd be like, you know, I can't raise my hand and say like I have to go to the bathroom. I'm just gonna hold it until like class is over. Like I was that level of shy. Like I didn't want other people to even notice that I had to go to the bathroom. But you know, there's other people who have had that, who go through that. And the thing is, like, when you see other people do it, does it ever make like, right? Like you look at other people do that and like, oh, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom, and they leave to the bathroom and they do it, and you're like, that was easy for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that didn't look like, but if I get up, everyone's gonna be looking at me and thinking, "Oh, man, he's probably gotta go to the bathroom." Oh, like, what's the big deal? Seriously, just do it, Ryan. Nah, I'll just wait. Just do it. Like, stupid to, like, yeah, but now you've been thinking about it for, like, 20 minutes. You can wait for the rest of the minute, like, 10 minutes before class is over, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's like, seriously, don't be afraid to speak up, because here's the thing. You're just a person,
Mhm.
and in that, you're a whole person, and it's awesome. So, when an infinitely valuable being speaks, they ought to be respected, and they shouldn't feel like they're being put down when other people hear them.
Mm.
When an infinitely valuable human speaks, all people should be respectful to that and listen
Mm.
to their words. And even if they are just, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom, or hey, I'm in here, please don't lock me in, you know, or whatever, or afraid, when you're afraid to speak, remember, um, you're just a person. No one's really paying a whole lot of attention to you. But on top of that, you're also infinitely valuable. And you shouldn't allow yourself to, um, you shouldn't put yourself down. You shouldn't put yourself like, you shouldn't worry about yourself. You shouldn't worry about how other people are thinking of you and allow that to make you feel bad, or allow other people to put you down. Um, so anyways, yeah, I totally relate on not wanting to speak up. Um, but I learned more and more, I still go through it. I'm still learning on this subject myself. But um, if I can just walk in and be natural, like into a room of strangers, I can just walk in and be natural and say whatever is on my mind. Like, seriously, that is awesome. And if I can just say what's on my mind, like, oh man, this cheese is really good, like whatever it is, like, and not worry about what other people are thinking. Not only do I feel comfortable, it engages other people in the room and makes them feel comfortable.
Mhm.
I am serious. When you assert yourself, and you can, when you walk into a room and you might not know anybody, if you just say the things that are on your mind, that are good, that are healthy, not bad things, but say what's on your mind. Say, just be you. It makes other people feel more comfortable.
Mhm.
As weird as that is, because then you've opened yourself up for more social conversation with them, a relationship with them. See, until that point, if you're just silent, they don't want to bother you, and they don't know who you are, and they feel uncomfortable. But if instead you go into a situation where you don't know anybody, and I'm not saying you need to be loud or obnoxious, but whenever you feel like, hey, I can add to the conversation, I could say one little funny line here and leave, or whatever it is. Um, it honestly makes other people feel more comfortable. Um, you sure that it does make it more comfortable? Yeah, it makes it a lot more comfortable for other people, because now you've opened yourself up for conversation. Um, it makes you more comfortable also. It might make you nervous, but it also makes you more at ease, not worried about necessarily, being quiet or but not being noticed, etc. Um, because when you can be yourself, you're more at ease with yourself. And when you're at ease with yourself, it makes other people more comfortable, because you're
Mhm.
more comfortable.
Mhm.
When you're comfortable to be around, when you're an easy to get along with person, um, you know, of course, it makes other people at ease. So, um, there are people who are really loud when they come into a room, right? And they're like the social uh, bees. They come in and everybody knows they're there and they get all the attention.
Mhm.
Um, those people, they can make other people uncomfortable if they're overbearing, but I don't think you'll run into that problem. Um, and so I mean, you can go too far in one direction, but there's a healthy balance, and I think it's not hard to meet.
Mm.
It just takes a little bit of self-motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. And don't forget, Princess, you have a beautiful heart.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the little bits of conversations we've had through the chats and, the forums and the messages and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you have a wonderful, loving, beautiful heart that loves other people. And that is valuable. And if you can remind yourself of that, then it won't matter. It can smooth out a lot of this if you can just remember that. Just think of us telling you you've got a beautiful heart.
You have a beautiful heart.
You absolutely do. You absolutely do. So you're an amazing young lady.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Cool.
And thank you for posting the stuff in the chat and in the website. Mm-hmm. Again, we got to give you the shout out for that again and again and again, because you do that amazingly.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I guess we can move on to the next one, eh?
Yeah. Thanks again for posting, Princess. That was absolutely wonderful.
So wait. Did we do this one?
Did we do what?
Oh, wait. Is Haley here?
Haley was here, and she I
think she's gone now.
She didn't have audio either. She wasn't able to listen.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. I was like, remember we acknowledged her. Okay, mm-hmm. That's what it was. So I guess then Lux is
not here. Akil is here.
We can move on to Akil.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thanks, Science. Thanks for noticing how deep and insightful my input of for sure. Mm-hmm. Cool. I don't think I ever said the word cool, though. I think you're quoting something different than when I said, "Oh my gosh, you evil person." No, I'm just kidding. Cool.
Yeah, we've got a few here. I don't think I've ever met Repacharge.
I know Repacharge. I don't know if they're actually still in the chat or not, though.
We've got. Looks like we got one from Akil. We've got one from Science Rocks. We've got one from Repacharge.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people are saying, "Oh, yep, Repacharge is here." I don't think. Have we ever handled one of Repacharge's?
I know that we have in the past, like me and Derek. We might have Joe, but I don't recall.
I don't recall ever.
You were watching the stream. All right, Repacharge is here.
Okay, so we've got one from Akil and Science Rocks and Repacharge, and a lot of people are saying Repacharge. Repacharge seems to be having the votes.
All right, Repacharge, you get the votes. You get the totes, whatever those are.
The votes and the totes.
Yes. So Repacharge says this. Help, please. Okay. Hey, yo, I'm scared that my life is ruined. I am barely doing anything in school. I am usually hanging out in the office doing nothing. I go to 3 out of 7 periods. I need help. All right. I understand. I can see why you'd be feeling the way you feel. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, by the way, Repacharge.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yep. A lot of times they're a little longer, so I have time to think while it's being read.
While it's going being read. Okay, so we've got more. Repacharge is in 8th grade.
Okay.
But yeah, usually there's more time. So I'll just read it again. Hey, yo, I'm scared that my life is ruined. I am barely doing anything in school. I'm usually hanging out in the office doing nothing. I go to 3 out of 7 periods. I need help. So My question might be for you, Repicharge. You said you're scared that your life is ruined and you're barely doing anything in school. How come you're barely doing anything in school?
Yeah, that's kind of the question that comes to mind for me too. If there's a reason for that, or says not is Repcharge. Do we know if Repcharge is a boy or a girl?
I was always under the understanding that he was a boy,
Okay,
but
so
I guess I never asked.
I just didn't want to like say he or she without being offended or with and
I don't want to be offensive. You don't want
right,
to be like, you cow. And they're like, I'm not a cow, I'm a fish. And oh, my bad.
Sure. Anyway, okay, but you're usually hanging out in the office doing nothing. That's interesting to me. So if you're in the office doing nothing, is that because are you in trouble?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not racked with any social phobias. I'm a boy. I think
Mhm.
it's because of something that happened at my family life. Oh, okay. Something happened in your family life.
Okay.
And you always hang out at the office. I'm guessing that what happened was Repicharge ended up going to the office a few times, and now that's kind of settled into the norm.
Okay.
Um, and that's become the new easy way out and the easy habit of just kind of going there.
Okay. Not
I'm
in
not in
trouble.
trouble at all.
Just lost the will to care.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems to affect a lot of people. I can remember when I was young in school, and it really kind of got to be about that time for me too. You said eighth grade, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can remember um, a big change happened for me when I was in seventh grade, and my whole attitude towards school changed. I was always, up until then, I had been a very enthusiastic learner. I always been really excited about learning. I've been excited about going to school. I always got good grades because I was excited about learning. I was always in that top, uh, like excited about being there and learning. And then everything kind of changed in middle school. And for me, it started to change in seventh grade, changed more in eighth grade, and then really changed in 10th grade. So and then it shifted to this, general, like what you're dealing with, like what you're talking about. You just lost the will to care. Like, yeah, I was like, what's the point? I'm doing things that I see no real world application for. I don't know where I'm ever going to use algebra. I don't, and so like these were kind of the thoughts that were going through my head, right? And I wasn't ever going through the logical thought process of thinking, okay, see, now being where I am now, I look back and I go, oh, some of these classes, even though I don't use them in my day-to-day life, it was valuable because they were a challenge. So sometimes just the fact that something is a bit of a challenge makes it worth it, because then you're conquering a challenge, right? But there are also, sometimes it's really frustrating in that environment. And I don't know, like, if now, Repicharge, you've said something about something that happened at your family life, um, may have been discouraging for you. For me, it was to do with other classmates in school. When I was going through middle school, I was smaller than average. I was shorter and skinnier, so I was a little kid. And and I was really, really smart. I kind of had this reputation of being a brainy little kid. So that combination got me picked on a lot. And then I was a bit naive, so people would take advantage of that. They'd say, "Hey, go do this," and I'd go do it, and then they'd make fun of me for doing it. You ever get that?
Mm.
Where it's just because I was naive, and people would say, "I'm just keep." The only thing I can think of is, like, I forget the movie. There was this movie where they were policemen, and there was this guy who was just super naive, and they got him to do it. They called it a desk pop. They're like, Yeah, man, everybody fires their gun in the office. It's called a desk pop. You're gonna do a desk pop, you know.
What?
So then they're like, yeah, man, do it. You know, and they gang up and he's like, okay. He shot a hole in the ceiling. And everyone's like, oh, you know, that they're making fun of him. Ha ha, you actually did it, you know, blah, 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 blah. That was me. I was the guy that would do the desk pop because they'd be like, do this, man. Everybody does it. You know, it's a cool thing to do. And then I would do it, and then they'd make fun of me. And I'm like, what the heck, man? That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people would take advantage of me, and it really got frustrating and disheartening. And I can remember starting to close off to other people. And I can remember starting to not care about being in class anymore. I can remember, okay, update. I've never actually had a bullying problem. My elementary school is a very big anti-bully school. That's good. And in middle school, I'm not really enemies with anyone. That's good too.
That's
but
good.
sometimes it can just grow cold. Sometimes it might not be frustrating at all. Maybe it's just boredom. Sometimes, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just the same old, and now it's become this thing. You know, I guess I don't necessarily want to go down every possible rabbit trail, you know, that it could be, because there's a lot of different options. The question is, how do we move from there, where you're at, to something a bit more productive, something a bit more engaging, something a bit more exciting, something that you can do that'll really wake you up and get you, you know, moving again in the right direction. And I would encourage you, because when you're at school, it's kind of like you're kind of held hostage a little bit. You know, you don't have a whole lot of choice about what you're going to do. You can find different organizations, different social groups, different, you know, activities that you might be able to be a part of that might be good. You know, that's why it was one reason why there are sports. I don't know if there's any type of sport you might want to go out and try, you know. You know, that can add a little bit of, you know, non-boredom. For me, it was the arts. It was music. For me, finally, you know, there came a point, and this is what changed. Now, a few things changed when I got early into high school. By the time I was in 10th grade, I had made a couple of drastic changes. One, I had focused my energy into music. So that's where I was pouring all of my energy into, you know, creative, into music. I was just like, you know what? When I get done with school, I'm shutting out the world and I'm going to play music. Except for when swim season was, because I was on the swim team. So then I was swimming. But then after that, outside of school, it was music. And I would just push the world aside and focus on music. The other thing that happened was I gave in to hate. And that's what I would encourage you not to do. Now, it sounds like you're not going to have the same catalyst as I did, which was the bullying, the getting picked on a lot in school. That was the thing that drove me to the hatred. So you don't have that going on. So that's good. But, you know, a lot of times boredom can be a dangerous spot. I've heard it said many times, idle hands are the devil's workshop, which means if you're sitting still doing nothing, that's when the devil can creep in and get you to do things that might not be the best thing to do just because you're bored. So, looks like you do D&D after school, play esports. Really, literally not even filling free time. It's just another thing in my schedule. Okay. One thing you can do is try and dig into something that's purposeful or meaningful. Something you can do that adds value to the world. One thing that always adds value to the world, and this is going to sound super shameless and ridiculous, but go to bss.studio, get involved in the forums, and start encouraging some people. The more you give, the more alive you feel. it's really an amazing thing. The more you give to people, the more you encourage people, the more you find your heart filling with love. And the more you have love in your heart, the more peaceful you can be. And another thing, don't be afraid to daydream. Don't be afraid to dream of the life that you're going to have when you get older. Because that could be a great way to discover a purpose, is through dreaming. That's one of the things. I mean, when we're little, we're dreaming so much. We're like, man, I'm going to be an astronaut, and I'm going to be a fireman, and I'm going to be a rock star, and I'm going to be a policeman, or well, maybe not that. I'm going to be a dinosaur digger upper guy, whatever that is, and I'm going to explore the pyramids, and I'm going to go to Mars, and it's going to be awesome.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to have these dreams, and you have these dreams of all the things you can do as a kid. And then as you go through school, honestly, this is probably one of the biggest culprits. By the time I was in 7th and 8th grade, the school system that I was in had done everything it possibly could to kill every dream I had and try and pigeonhole me into a profession. Say, oh, well, you are really good at the sciences, so you need to be a brain surgeon. I have a friend who's a tremendous musician, and they're like, well, you don't seem to fit into anything, so you should be a tractor painter.
That's right. A tractor painter. Like, that's even that was on their list of things.
Yep, that was a thing. Yep.
That's oddly specific.
I know. It's a crazy thing. So I don't want to embitter you with the school system, because you're there. It's a place you got to be for the next 5 years. At least, sounds like 4.5 years. But you can dream still. You can use your imagination. You can use your imagination to figure out, okay, what kind of life do I want? What kind of life can I have in the future once I'm done with this? Because once you get out of school, it's over, and then you have your whole life in front of you, and you can do something great with it if you maintain the right attitude. If you develop bad habits of apathy and complacency and being sitting still, if you create those kind of habits through these next few years, then that could be a habit that plays out later, and then you won't do very much until you reawaken and reignite that dream that you have. So I would encourage you, take a little bit of time when you're bored, and use your imagination to think about the future. Think about the lifestyle you want. Think about what you want for your life. Not necessarily what profession you want to do, because that's kind of where they're going to try and guide you. My guidance counselors always tried to push me in that direction, where it's like, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life? What kind of job do you want? So I can tell you what college degree you're supposed to get. So I can tell you which college you're supposed to go to get the best kind of degree. So then I can get a kickback from that system for guiding you there. Sorry, I was a little bit cynical at the time. But anyway. But yes, it's, what we really need to ask ourselves is, what kind of life do we want? What do we want our life to look like? And you can think, what kind of house do I want to live in? What kind of car do I want to drive? What kind of, free time do I want to have? What kind of vacations do I want to take? All of those different aspects. What parts of the world do I want to travel to? You can really start to ignite and look at stuff online and find pictures of the things that really start to light you up a little bit, And from there, then you can start to determine, okay, in order to have that kind of lifestyle, I need to have a profession that's something like this. I need to be doing something like this in order to get that. So then it can start to guide you in that direction. But I would start with that, start daydreaming about the life you're going to have when you get older. And if you have friends, hang out with friends and enjoy your friends and love them and deepen the love you have for the people around you. And with that, I'm going to let Ryan talk because I've probably gone too far in any one direction and offended a bunch of people.
Everyone's offended. Everyone left. We have 0 viewers. No. No, thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's really hard because, well, I have two things, two propositions for you, your rapid charge. One, sometimes boredom is a good thing on many levels. Boredom, it's sometimes what you need to move forward. As much as I don't necessarily want to quote this person because I don't agree with a lot of the things they did, I agree with this thing that they said or that they did. They are the creators of Apple computers and the iPad and all of those things. What's his name?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs said, "I will never give my kids iPhones because they are objects which prevent creativity, because they fill your mind and don't allow your mind to have boredom." Steve Jobs. Thanks, Akil. Boredom is essential to creativity. Now, this is not what Steve Jobs says, but actually a priest had said that I know his name is Father Mike Schmitz. And he said,
incidentally, you should look up anything by Father Mike Schmitz and listen to it because he's tremendous.
He's awesome. He's just enjoyable to watch and experience and then listen to. But anyways, as he said, boredom is essential to worthwhile creativity. It is when we're bored that our minds wander. It is when we are Father Mike. It is when our minds are bored that they wander and start creating up new ideas to fill that void of boredom. And in that, we often get our most creative. Schmitz. It's S.
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
Okay, cool. Thanks. It has a D in it. It's one of those. But anyways,
it does not have a D in it.
When you're bored, you create things. And it's a super important part of life that a lot of people kind of don't experience a lot because of things like their phones and the internet and computers. Yeah, that's it. Schmidt.
No, that's not it either.
Oh, it's not Schmitz? Is it one with a Z?
I looked it up. That's it.
What's it?
What I just put.
You didn't put anything.
I did.
It didn't appear on my screen. There it is. It's delayed for me. The one with the Z, yes. It's the one with the Z at the end instead of the DTS or TDS. Anyways, continuing on. What you have right now is something I would call a blessing that appears as a curse. A lot of times, curses in life are actually blessings. They're just things that we don't necessarily like that point us or move us in a good direction. And in truth, they are a blessing. Boredom is a blessing. Whenever you feel bored, Repocharge, when next time you feel bored, I would encourage you to sit in it. Just sit in the boredom and be okay with it because it's not bad. It's not wrong. It's not evil. And in fact, can do a whole lot of good for your mind. It can refresh your mind. It can make you more like, here's the thing. If whenever you're bored, you resort to entertainment, you're programming your mind to think everything else in life that's not entertainment is boring. And so then your school life, boring. Work, boring. If you turn to entertainment every time you're bored, you're programming your mind, unfortunately, for failure, because then you won't be able to work when things are hard. Mm-hmm. When things don't necessarily seem that fun. But the thing is, if when you're bored and you just sit in it instead of turning to entertainment, you then, when you are experiencing something hard that would normally get boring, it no longer seems so boring. In fact, you get inspired instead of, I need to turn away. I need to find something to fill my mind with. I need something to go do because right now I'm just, I need to do something, you know? That's something I had to go through, and I still go through every once in a while. Entertainment is a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's pleasure. Pleasure's not a bad thing. But just like anything, too much of anything can be bad for you. And so if we always turn from boredom to entertainment, that's one path we can choose, but it will be a path of failure, unfortunately, a lot of times. When you're bored, try to seek, like Joe was talking about, something that's meaningful, something purposeful, something with great value, something that gives value to others. And I know that you want to be a selfless person or a charitable person. You want to do good things for others. And I think that's awesome, Rep, but you have a great heart. And so I give you props for that. I think that's awesome. Try to sit in the boredom and find things that you can do that'll be productive, that are not entertainment. Another thing about boredom is it not only does it give you the chance to reflect or become creative, but also boredom is it's generally created when we are experiencing something where we feel like we're not at peace. But it is pointing to our mind and saying to ourselves, like, hey, you're not at peace. It's a good indicator that we need to learn how to make ourselves at peace. Find something that's not an activity, because the thing is, people do drugs. People do drugs to get away from their problems. People fill their voids. We have many voids, but people fill that void with entertainment, with drugs, with different things that don't sustain us, and they don't create peace. They just make our mind busy. And a lot of times make our mind busy about nothing important. Although it can be important stuff sometimes. But it's a good indicator that we need to focus down on ourselves and learn how to find peace. But yeah, there was another thing I was going to say about boredom, but I've kind of forgotten what it was. But I think I've touched on a variety of subjects with that. So boredom is a blessing. The one more thing I thought about boredom that was this. Boredom is a good indicator that it's time to move on. Sometimes we get bored of things, and that's good because our mind has already figured it out and it doesn't need to sit on it anymore. It means that it's time to move on. It means that we've grown. Mm-hmm. Boredom is an indicator of growth as well. So sometimes you might be playing a game and you're like, I'm bored of this game, right? Well, that's a great opportunity because now you don't have to play it anymore. You can go do something more productive, mm-hmm. right? Or, whatever it is, you get bored of a TV show. Great. Time to move on. Not necessarily to another TV show, because you're probably going to get bored of that too. But maybe to another TV show, maybe making your own TV show, something that you think, okay, this is what the other TV shows are missing. Mm-hmm. They don't have this really great element lately. Like all the TV shows lately, they're missing this beautiful element, and they portray all of these male characters like they're stupid or something. That's so wrong. Let me fix this. Now you've taken this, you've gone down the road of basically you take everything you've experienced in the past that was entertainment and you turn it into knowledge. to help you develop something that's even better. And it's okay when your mind gets bored because it's an indicator of it's time to move on. It's time to move forward. So if you're bored with your school life, you feel like, you know, um, you don't want to do any schoolwork anymore. That's okay. That's probably because your mind is done with it, right? But the thing is, you probably should go through the motions anyways. And one way to solve this is to limit, again, the amount of times you head to entertainment whenever you feel bored. Like I was saying before, if you are bored and you move to entertainment, if you're bored and you look down at your phone, if you're bored and you go to something, you're training your mind. Unfortunately, for failure, you need to be able to sit in the boredom and think, reflect, imagine, look around you. You know, what do you see? There's beauty in there. There's beauty in what's around you. And there's so much we don't know. And if we take a moment to look at like nature and physics and stuff, we'll be like, whoa, okay, there's a lot here. Like, how do I even start to explain it? Then your mind is no longer bored because it's no longer focusing on one little thing that it's over, it's done with. It'll rekindle the desire for learning again. And that will help rekindle the desire to stick through the unfortunate annoyances of school or of any job that you'll ever have, even the ones you make for yourself. I know that from experience. Even when you own your own job and you're doing what you love for a living, doesn't mean you always love it. And doesn't mean it's not hard. Doesn't mean you don't have to figure out how to stick through it, how to, in fact, it can be even harder.
And sometimes it's still tedious.
Yes, extremely tedious.
Sometimes.
I'd say most of the time it's even harder because you're your own boss and you have to force yourself, and no one else is telling you what to do, and you have to tell yourself how to do it and have the will to follow through, because it's easy to be like, oh, I didn't do it. Oh, well, like at least no one's going to yell at me for it because it's me.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, figure out how to do it though, still, so boredom is an important thing. It's a very, very, very beautiful and important part of life. And work is too. Sometimes we look at work and it's like, this is just how I make money. This is just a job that I make money and that's all that it amounts to. So you don't care a whole lot about it. But when you broaden your perspective and you realize work is way more than that, work teaches us so much. We have to deal with people in and out. We learn how to socialize. We learn how to give to people. Our jobs, every job is something where you're giving something, whether it's your time, your service, your product, relationships, just words, whatever it is, comfort, helping people get through their computer problems, whatever it is, you're giving something to somebody. And that's beautiful too. And work should not necessarily, you shouldn't look at work, you shouldn't look at school as, as really just like, there's all of it is just like this little narrow thing. You have to broaden your mind and start to go, well, there's actually a lot I can learn from here. There's a lot that I'm doing here that's good for mankind beyond and good for myself. It's virtuous to work. It's virtuous. And it makes you feel good. At the end of the day, if you've done your work well, you feel good about yourself. Right now, what you're in a situation is you're worried about your life. And you're like, you don't feel good about skipping out in school and all that kind of stuff. You know that you don't. You've said so yourself. You said it to us. So it's a good indicator that, like, just like I was saying, you feel good about yourself when you go through doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, but they're your job. So yeah. Hopefully that helps. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I wish I could go back and delete what I said and just have Ryan's segment in there because I think that was way better.
I think actually I needed you to say everything you said in order to get there, and I like what you said also. So
yeah, I got to point out what Aaron Joseph said. When it comes to art, make what you want in the world, write what you want to read, sing what you want to hear, and draw what you want to see. I love
yeah,
that
that's
because
awesome.
you can create your world.
Yeah,
You can. Everything that's in this world was created by somebody. Everything that doesn't every product,
every human product is created by a human.
exactly. Yes. Yes. And Princess, you are right. You need both sides to have a coin. Actually, a coin has three sides. There's
That's
heads, there's
true.
tails, and there's the edge.
Although the edge is infinite sides, depending on if the coin is round or maybe it's a hexagon or a dodecahedron, dodecagon.
Dodecagonahedron,
Yeah,
phenomena.
yeah.
Do-do-do-do-do.
P as in pneumonia.
Do-do-do-do. P as in P as in fish.
Yes, that's great. Fishing. H-I-S-H-I-N-G. By the way, hey, how's it going, Haseo? Haseo? I don't know how to say your name. Yeah, we're why haven't I posted anything on Zaddy P channel? We're talking about it right now. That's what that discussion was about. It's about no, because I've got a lot of things going, got a lot of projects, and this song that I've been working on has taken me way too long. But I'm liking how it's coming along. It's sounding good, so hopefully it will be in your eardrums within the next 3 years. So plan on that. And you get what you get because I can only give what I can give. Um, so, anyways, thanks for the question, though.
Yes. No, absolutely. And guys, we're getting here towards the end of the stream. Thank you, Repicharge, for that question, for posting that topic. And I tell you, I love what Ryan went through there, that boredom means, maybe it's time to move on beyond. Maybe your boredom is because you understand everything that's in your classes too well. That could be too. And so, yeah, maybe it's time to do something a little bit different. And yeah, but I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to act like Ryan's boss from now on, and I'm going to give him grief about not having stuff done because we got all kinds of people asking about it. So I'm going to be that guy.
I already give myself enough grief, but that's all right. I mean, that won't hurt anything, right? It's not only you asked if there's going to be anything special for next week's Don't Worry Wednesday. If you're there, then yeah, I mean, you're special, and we appreciate you. Are you asking because it'll be like a year or something? I don't know. I don't think it'll be quite a year. Half a year, maybe. I'm not sure. Why do you ask, Only, right? Oh, thanks, Brian. You're welcome, Sonali. Seriously, we love you.
Yes.
We seriously do.
We need to make sure we get Bree. Bree just posted something, and since we're at the end of the stream, we're not going to be able to handle it on this one, but we need to make sure we put it in the thing on the website.
Oh, yeah. These kids were calling me a freak, and I almost lost my temper.
That's a very,
very kid, but yeah, like seriously.
That's not a good issue to have, but it's a great one to discuss.
Yeah. We love you, Bree. You know what? Yeah, you're not afraid.
You're amazing.
We know who you are. They don't. They're just kids. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know you. Only the grass knows you. Okay, that's not true. We know you a little bit better, and we know that you're awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I get it. I mean, stupid when people call you stupid things. It makes you frustrated and angry. I go, yeah. So, anyways, we'll talk about that next stream. We'll be doing it on Wednesday. Wednesday.
Yep. And Will it be the 9th anniversary of BSS?
The 9th anniversary.
Nope, because that actually would be in October.
October, I believe.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wouldn't it be in October, or would it technically be in? It depends on when you want to decide the true starting date.
Yeah. When was the true starting date? Was the true starting date infinity ago?
Oh, snap. Was it all by design?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
And we were all brought here to this moment.
Whoa. All of us, every one of us is here, right here.
We're still trying to figure out when we actually started, because there's a starting point when, a couple of us got together. There's a starting point when we kind of had a core group and we all went out and drank a bunch of coffee and socialized. And that was kind of like a starting point. And there was a starting point when we all got really focused, and there was a starting point when we all got unfocused. And there was another starting point where we all got focused again. And then there was a starting point when Ryan asked me the question, why aren't you doing anything? And then there was the question.
Well, then there was a created a physical business, or not necessarily physical, but within the confines of.
Oh yeah, there is that. There was the starting point when we actually got our first money from a project. There was a starting point when we actually formed an LLC.
Yeah. When was the true start date? Depends on what you mean. What do you mean? What do you mean by what do you mean?
Yeah.
Define the word define.
Well, it's Sunnily. So Sunnily has the history of BSS cataloged on a
yes. If anybody knows anything about BSS, it's Sunnily.
Yes, absolutely. I think Sunnily knows more about any one of us in BSS.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm serious. It's great. And Bree, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
You're amazing.
You are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see you guys on the next stream. If you come, if you don't, then I won't see you, and that's your fault. So I'm sorry. Don't blame it on me. The heck.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, see you guys. We love you.
We love you a lot. And go to